Hello everyone and welcome back to another exciting episode of Boy Curious, the show in which I, Matt the Gameboy, look at some bootlegs and oddities for everyone's favourite Nintendo handheld range. So this week I will be looking at one that may surprise you. It's Digimon Diamond. So I've been laying into our good friends at Syntax pretty hard lately on the Boy Curious front, and while their games are so good they say like a bomb, I'd like to bring you back to our good friends at Maconsoft, or as they are most commonly known, Yong Yong. Of course, long-time viewers of the channel will be familiar with this name, as they're the people behind the shit-tastic Sonic 3D Blast. It's pretty evident from Sonic that Yong Yong have no qualms with borrowing an established license to use as the visual basis for their notoriously terrible games. And it is perhaps just as ironic as a Sonic game on a Nintendo console that Yong Yong decided that the next big thing all the Nintendo touting 10-year-olds would want was a game based on Bandai's Digimon. Yes, with Pokemon making such a big splash on the portable powerhouse, it seems almost inevitable that someone would try and bring out a game of the other virtual pet ending in Mon, and Yong Yong rose to that challenge. Now, I'm not here to debate the quality of Digimon or its blatant attempt to cash in on the Pokemon craze, as well, I was a preteen at the time and I kinda liked them both. And despite your own personal loving or loathing of the digital monsters, I think we can all agree that no franchise deserves the humiliation of starring in a Yong Yong title, especially one that is this damned awful. So, the game starts with a slideshow of images based on the anime's introduction and a brief rundown of the plot of the show. You're informed that Agumon, that's the Charmandery chap if you're unfamiliar with the series, must find Tai, the series' Ash if you will, and the rest of their friends. Agumon even features in the title screen with his digivolved form Greymon, except, well, in the game you play as Tai, and not the lookalike lizard that the title crawl conveys. It turns out that this is because there are other versions of the game where Agumon is your main character, but Digimon Diamond apparently isn't one of these. Even more stranger than this, however, is the Digivice you find in the level still makes you digivolve into Greymon. Bizarre, yes, but what you gonna do? Anyways, this is the least of Yong Yong's problems, as this game is without a shadow of a doubt one of the worst I've ever played across any system. The aim of the gameplay is to traverse a level, collecting items to fill up your MP meter, to then use the portal at the end of the level to travel to the next one. A simple enough concept, right? Well, it would be if the game didn't hate you from the off. You see, the handling in Digimon Diamond is just plain garbage. For starters, there's a real floaty nature to the controls that feels off and is primarily down to the game's dash. Holding a direction on the D-pad for longer than 2 seconds will make Tai go into a sprint, which then tries to apply some kind of momentum in stopping the character with distressing results. You see, on stopping your sprite, Tai will slide forward slightly, but then sputter a few steps even further still like a marathon runner suffering from cramp just before a finish line. This will send you over cliffs, into enemies, and generally fuck up any hope you have of playing Digimon Diamond like a half-decent platformer. Worse than this even are the game's jump mechanics, as you will never have any idea what you're jumping up into or down onto. As well, the designers didn't really seem to care about this detail. I know the designers didn't care because they gave these enemies you can easily blindly jump into a knockback, and I can't even begin to tell you how many times I was accidentally sent spiraling to my demise because of this, as even if by some miracle you land a blind jump onto a platform, the game's never-ending assault of enemies will with one touch send you flying backwards and almost always into imminent defeat. This, as you can imagine, is a massive problem in itself, as a knockback in any platform game can be a bit of a killer. But what if I told you that enemies are constantly spawning and almost always certainly have spawned just beyond the edge of the screen waiting to kill you dead? Seriously, because of how the platform is laid out, the game requires you to pretty much jump in almost 5-second intervals. But Yong Yong doesn't seem to care that every other jump you need to do will see you hit an enemy, and not only hurt you, but usually make you do the whole damn jump again if it doesn't kill you. While I will compliment Yong Yong on their large variety of Digimon sprites in the game, I can't give them too much credit, as one must assume, like every other thing in this game, that these sprites are more likely stolen assets from another source, and is probably the case also for the backgrounds. The items you collect to fill your P-bar also fall into this stolen asset camp, as they're of no relation whatsoever to the source material. Mobile phones, handbags, scrolls. What the fuck have these got to do with anything Digimon? The medical bag to refill your health, yes, I do get, but the rest of it just feels lazy on the developer's part. You can of course defend yourself in this game by simply pressing the B button. In doing so, Tai will send a fireball hurtling towards enemies. This is a pretty effective attack that will get you through the game's 6 worlds with very little bother if timed right. I assume half of its power is in the fact that it looks suspiciously like a flaming swastika, and that no Digimon wants to question Tai's poor choice of symbolism and simply plays dead to avoid the conflict caused by this. Naturally, like any platformer worth a damn, you can kill evil Digimon by jumping on their heads, Mario style. Digivolving into Greymon offers very little to Tai's abilities other than he can jump a little bit further, so it's almost useless to make the transformation unless you really need him. While it is nice that this power-up lasts until you die rather than being lost after taking damage, it can actually be more trouble to play as Greymon because of the sprite size feeling more floaty to control than Tai, and if you pick up a Digivice, you can't really do anything about this other than dying. While the game does contain a whopping total of 6 worlds, I'm pretty sure that Yong Yong thought nobody would ever finish this piece of crap, as the ending is simply a still image cultivating in the word end. A rather fitting conclusion, as much like its gameplay, it's nothing more than a cheap slap in the face of the player. If you are really a sadist like myself, however, there are unlimited continues in Digimon Diamond, accessed by clicking the load game on the title screen after death. That means if you're patient, you too can see this terrible ending. Huzzah! Then, finally, it's time to look at perhaps the worst aspect of Digimon Diamond, its score. The tracks feel like they were composed by a man who was trying to wipe a spilt cup of coffee off his keyboard while he was recording, and someone in project management decided, that'll do. Seriously, it's fucking awful. I even muted the damn game while beating it, which is something I never ever do, despite how bad the music can be. I contemplated even putting something else as bedding music on this video, but you needed to hear the horror firsthand to make sure you never, ever pick up and play this game. Overall, the game just isn't fun. From its misplaced main man, to uninteresting and eternally frustrating gameplay, Digimon Diamond isn't even worth playing to pose the question of how did such a train wreck of a game come into existence. It handles awfully, sounds dissonant, and is just plain shitty to the player. It's hard to start with, but ends up being controller-throwingly frustrating. Please, I beg you, don't buy this game. 5 minutes of emulation is clearly enough for you to experience its horror and not be left with a deep sense of self-loathing afterwards. Get it if you absolutely have to, but you're better off spending your money on absolutely anything else. And if I can save one poor soul from making the same mistake that I did in purchasing this handheld horror, then this video will have totally been worthwhile. And that brings us to the end of another Boy Curious, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you've enjoyed it more than I liked playing this fucking train wreck. If you have, please subscribe and encourage others you think may enjoy this video or others like it to do so, as this is how the channel gets around. You can also watch some of our Boyographic videos where I look at the highs and lows of the Game Boy library, and those lows, I guarantee you, are nowhere near this bad, so go watch them. And I do that one cart at a time. You can also check out some more Boy Curious videos where I look at bootlegs and oddities for the system. Again, none of them are as bad as this one. Or you can watch our All the Glory videos where I take out all of the deaths and leave you with none of the faff but all of the glory. Not that there's any to be had with Digimon Diamond. Until next week, Game Boys and Girls, it's goodbye from me. Game on.